Making headlines on our newscast this hour. China's top nuclear envoy pays a visit to Seoul and makes two things clear: greater support for UN Security Council sanctions against Pyongyang, clear opposition to THAAD, which undermines Beijing's security interests. A new electoral map has yet to get the green light as the opposition continues a marathon filibuster in protest of an anti-terror bill. The ruling party isn't budging either, firmly standing its ground, adding there will be no compromise when it comes to counterterrorism. Seoul and Washington agreed to boost cooperation on space science, Earth observation, and space exploration, making Korea the first Asian nation to ink such a bilateral deal with the U.S. News Center begins now. Good evening and welcome to this Monday night's edition of News Center. I'm Daniel Che, filling in for Moon Ganyon. China's top nuclear envoy has made clear that China stands opposed to the deployment of a U.S. missile defense system known as THAAD to the Korean peninsula. This latest confirmation comes during meetings with South Korean officials in Seoul. Our Kwon So-hwa starts us off.
Another straightforward confirmation. China's special representative to the six-party nuclear talks, Wu Da-wei, has reaffirmed Beijing's opposition towards the possible deployment of a U.S. THAAD missile defense system to South Korea. This latest confirmation came after a closed-door meeting with Seoul's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se on Monday.
China is opposed to the U.S. and South Korea's stance on the deployment of THAAD in South Korea. We explain China's stance and hope that the U.S. and South Korea give weight to China's interests and that they handle this issue appropriately.
According to an official at Seoul's foreign ministry, the issue was also addressed during a separate meeting between Wu and Vice Foreign Minister Im Seong-nam earlier in the day. The official said, though, the two spent a majority of their time on other issues of mutual interest, and the Chinese envoy used the meeting to emphasize the importance of Seoul and Beijing's strategic cooperative partnership. Seoul's foreign ministry stated that Wu and Foreign Minister Yoon assessed the unprecedented strong UN Security Council sanctions against North Korea, which were formed through some 50 days of close cooperation, would be adopted soon. It also said that China vowed sincere efforts towards an effective implementation of the sanctions. China's top nuclear envoy is expected to continue discussions with South Korean officials, including Unification Minister Hong Yong-pyo on Tuesday, before returning to China on Thursday. Kwon So-hwa, Arirang News.
With China joining efforts to send a strong message to North Korea for its latest nuclear missile test, the regime is expected to get hit with the toughest UN Security Council sanctions yet. Connie Kim has the insights on how South Korea's improving ties with China was a crucial contributing factor in Beijing's late turnaround.
China had been emphasizing peaceful dialogue to resolve the crisis over North Korea's nuclear weapons program, delaying the UN Security Council's sanctions resolution on Pyongyang. So, what could have possibly caused Pyongyang's longtime ally to change its attitude? Panelists at a seminar from the Korean National Diplomatic Academy noted South Korea's diplomatic efforts with China as a major factor.
South Korean President Park Geun-hye's decision to attend China's World War II anniversary celebrations reflected Seoul's will for strong ties with Beijing. I doubt Seoul would have been able to persuade China to show a stronger stance against Pyongyang without such efforts.
President Park and Chinese President Xi Jinping held 6 summits since the two took office. President Xi has even assessed the two countries' relations as being at its highest. But experts also point out Seoul and Washington's alliance as another factor that could have pressed Beijing to shift its stance.
China may have realized South Korea and the U.S. boasted a stronger alliance when it raised opposition against a THAAD deployment and showed a lukewarm response to UN sanctions. It's ironic that the stronger Seoul-Washington ties grow, the easier it is to get China engaged.
Beijing agreed on a draft UN resolution after its Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry in Washington last week, following united calls for it to slap heavier sanctions on Pyongyang. The general consensus seems to be that Beijing decided it could no longer take the same stance it took previously, especially since stronger Seoul-Washington ties will be unfavorable for China in the long term. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
With tensions remaining high on the Korean peninsula, the U.S. has been reaffirming its commitment to South Korea, most recently showcasing its full range of capabilities and hardware to better defend Seoul during an annual military event on the U.S. West Coast. Kim Hyun-bin takes us closer to the action.
South Korea's defense ministry said on Monday that Washington showed its readiness to protect the Korean peninsula during a joint tabletop exercise in California. The TTX, an annual anti-nuclear exercise, was held at the Vandenberg Air Force Base, where some 40 defense officials from Seoul and Washington met to discuss warfare strategies to better counter Pyongyang's nuclear threats and weapons of mass destruction. Deputy Minister for National Defense Policy, Ryu Jae-sung, led the South Korean side. The U.S. was co-led by Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Nuclear and Missile Defense Policy, Elaine Bunn, and Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for East Asia, Abraham Denmark. During the exercise, the U.S. displayed key strategic weaponry, including B-52 bombers capable of carrying nuclear bombs and cruise missiles, and demonstrated a contingency plan for South Korea. And in another show of might, U.S. officials revealed that a successful test launch of its Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile could target Pyongyang. Washington also showcased its ground-based interceptor, or GBI, which is capable of intercepting incoming ballistic missiles to protect the U.S. mainland. Military officials said the displays were designed to give assurances of Washington's promise of extended deterrence against North Korea. This year's joint exercise marks the fifth of its kind since the Extended Deterrence Policy Committee was established in 2011. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
With the new electoral map tossed back to Parliament, the ruling Centre Party wants to endorse the constituency bill up for a vote. But the opposition bloc has refused to end the filibuster, urging the governing party to open a separate voting session specifically for the constituency bill. Ji Myung-gil brings us the updates.
The ruling Centre Party is desperate as they continue to blame the main opposition Minju Party of Korea for blocking legislative duties on Monday.
The parliament is in a state of paralysis due to the opposition-led filibuster. Danger looms on both economic and security fronts, with the possibility of delaying the upcoming election.
Floor Leader Won emphasized that without passing the constituency bill, election campaigning and compiling candidate lists for overseas Koreans will be interrupted as April's general election nears. However, the opposition-led filibuster continued on Monday in protest of the Assembly Speaker's decision to directly refer the bill for a vote last week without opposition consent.
The ruling party and the presidential office should yield to the opposition's demand to revise the counterterrorism bill. Passing the constituency bill is also important to us. The ruling party should stop with their parliamentary dictatorship.
Floor Leader Lee said the Minju Party will be willing to temporarily halt the filibuster and open a voting session just to pass the constituency bill. The Minju Party wants the ruling bloc's cooperation on amending the counterterrorism bill, as ending the filibuster will automatically put the security bill up for a vote. However, the ruling party said they had no intention of revising a single word of the security bill and held protests against the opposition-led filibuster at the National Assembly. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Well, the country's parliament is still at a standstill amid an ongoing record filibuster. To tell us more about where this is headed, we have our National Assembly correspondent Shin Semin joining us in the studio. Semin, thanks for making time for us in the studio today.
Sure.
First of all, we have a yes and a no, but not in the order that we would like to hear.
That's right. Yes to more delays and no to plenary session. As we speak, there is no scheduled session for the parliament at this moment, but which would automatically lead that the opposition lawmakers' filibuster will continue for the time being. Now, entering its 7th day of the filibuster, invoked by well into its 27th speaker. Now, of the Minju Party of Korea, the People's Party, and the Justice Party is breaking all known records as we speak. Now, for one, the world's longest filibuster, easily surpassing Canada's 58-hour session by the New Democratic Party to prevent a bill ordering Canada Post employees back to work back in 2011. And records aside, the filibuster has also garnered the interest of the public, with crowds ranging from young students to parents and even college kids gathering to watch lawmakers from the gallery and offer support. But at the same time, there are also critics who say that this action to block a counterterrorism bill may not be as effective as it should be.
It's the democratic way to allow assembly members to delay or even prevent a vote on a bill. But what it's doing is just wasting time, as there are a number of pending bills that are awaiting approval.
So at the center of this controversy is, of course, the counterterrorism bill. Could you give us a rundown of why it's such an issue of contention between the two parties? Of course, we understand the top spy agency is somewhere playing a big role.
That's right. At the core of this is the Article 9 and the Clause 3 of the counterterrorism bill. It says that it will grant the National Intelligence Service the right to acquire personal information on any potential terror threat. The opposition party believes that the bill will allow the spy agency to conduct unlawful surveillance on the public prior to issuing a warrant. Now, while the ruling party is stressing that the bill's importance, citing that Korea is one of just 4 nations from the combined 42 OECD and G20 countries without the anti-terrorism law in place. And with the rival political parties are not backing down even an inch on this issue, they're still at a pause, that they are differing stances.
Right, the filibuster certainly it's quite a sight, certainly a rating booster and a way to increase awareness and attention to what's going on in state affairs. They do deserve our respect for keeping it going for so long. Of course, something is better than nothing. But then, of course, there are some critics there as well, and delays and paralysis at the parliament. Will we ever see an end to it?
Well, of course, but the general perception for now seems to be that the parliament is straying a lot of pending issues at stake. Now, they're even saying that the current session is at its vegetable state for not getting matters resolved. But we should note that the current 19th parliamentary is chased by the time, as the general election is just 44 days away from this Monday as we speak, even stirring up concerns that the April 13th general election may even be postponed.
Too much is at risk if the elections get delayed, because that means the incumbent lawmakers will have to extend their time with their service, and other state affairs will also get delayed.
And some political watchers, however, say that the rival political parties will eventually come to a settlement because the incumbent lawmakers don't want to get blamed for not getting matters done.
Well, the electoral map, in an ideal situation, we would see it put not just in black and white, but in reality, put it into act. Tell us what it would have been like if not for all the delays.
Well, here's the new constituency map brought by the National Election Commissions. Now, the number of electoral constituencies went up to 253 from the previous 246, while the number of lawmakers for proportional representatives went down to 47 from 54. Now, based on that, the 16 constituencies got split and 9 of them have merged into another districts. Now, districts, as you can see in the map here, in Gangwon-do, Jeollabuk-do, Jeollanam-do, and Gyeongsang-buk-do provinces got smaller, while those in Gyeonggi-do, Chungcheongnam-do provinces and major cities like Incheon, Daejeon, and capital Seoul have gained extra parliamentary seats.
Right, certainly the lawmakers are pushing themselves to do their part, and of course they can't see eye to eye all the time, but hopefully they will listen more and try to meet halfway a little more often, because we're getting too used to the paralysis at the parliament, and that's not something that we should be getting used to. Well, Semin, thank you so much for being here with us. Usually you're out there braving the cold, giving us the updates from the National Assembly. Shin Semin, thanks again for those updates today.
My pleasure.
President Park Geun-hye on Monday appointed a dozen vice ministers and ambassadors. Among them are Chung Kwan-ju, secretary to the president for public communications, who was appointed as first vice minister for culture, sports, and tourism. The presidential office explained that Chung is suitable for the position to boost cultural prosperity with his proven coordination abilities and initiatives on outstanding issues in the culture sector. Current representative for the six-party denuclearization talks, Hwang Jun-guk, will act as ambassador to the UK, where he will closely coordinate with London on UN Security Council resolutions on Pyongyang. Current Deputy Foreign Minister for Political Affairs, Kim Hong-gyun, will take over Hwang's position dealing with North Korean nuclear issues. Kim formerly served as the Deputy Secretary General for the National Security Council at the presidential office. Korea is eyeing a future of space exploration that will see an unmanned vehicle sent to the moon. It's a plan that could gain traction sooner than expected, thanks to a fresh deal to boost space cooperation with the United States. Kim Jin explains why this is a giant leap for Korea's space aspirations.
South Korea and the U.S. have agreed on a deal to boost civilian exchanges in the space sector. It is aimed at establishing a legal and institutional framework for increased cooperation in space science, Earth observation, and space exploration. This in addition to data transfer of space-related technology, intellectual property, sharing facility, and exchanges of personnel. State-run agencies that will be involved include the Korea Aerospace Research Institute, KAIST, the Korea Meteorological Administration, the U.S. Geological Survey, and NASA. Korea's Science Ministry expects the agreement will boost the country's moon and space exploration efforts and result in the creation of a homegrown rocket and more satellites. The ministry plans to start pumping in roughly $160 million into the project over the next 3 years. This is the first time the U.S. has agreed to a government-to-government deal on space cooperation with a nation. So far, the U.S. has sealed similar agreements with 10 countries, including Russia, Canada, and France. Related talks began in 2010, but only gained momentum after a summit between President Park Geun-hye and her U.S. counterpart Barack Obama last October. In 2013, Korea became the 11th country to join the Space Club after it successfully launched its NATO satellite into space. Kim Jung, Arirang News.
Korea's business sentiment has worsened all the way down to its lowest level since March 2009. Key contributing factor, weak global domestic demand amid uncertainties in the financial market. Hwang Ji-hye looks into the numbers.
Despite a record low key rate and the government's aggressive stimulus measures, confidence among Korean manufacturers remains subdued. The Bank of Korea says the business sentiment index for February dropped to 63 from a month ago, marking the fourth straight month of decline. The figure even stands below the 66 posted in June last year when the MERS outbreak flattened the country's spending. The central bank says weak demand at home and abroad have caused the drop.
Businesses point to sluggish domestic demand, slumping exports, and increased volatility stemming from uncertainties in exchange rates and interest rates as major corporate risks this year.
In fact, the Korean won weakened sharply against the U.S. dollar in early trading on Monday, plunging to an almost 6-year low. Although the local currency recovered some early losses and closed up against the greenback from the previous session, experts say financial market volatility remains due to faltering oil prices and the unstable Chinese market. They add such uncertainties will continue to threaten business activities.
The heightened financial market instability will stoke concerns among economic players and result in conservative spending and investment patterns, while slowing corporate activities.
With the Trade Ministry set to release new export figures on Tuesday, eyes are focused on whether the country will continue its downward streak for a 14th straight month, which will further dampen business outlook. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
Korea has quickly become a popular destination for foreign patients seeking medical services. To better accommodate these visitors, a new medical information center was opened. Kim Min-ji shows us how it can help foreign patients from A to Z.
Saren Dolger is from Mongolia. She's in Seoul to receive treatment for a thyroid and digestive condition she's been battling because services here are more reliable than back home.
This Korean hospital is very famous among Mongolians. This is my second visit. The medical equipment and doctors here are top-notch and the service is excellent.
She is just one of many foreigners receiving medical treatment in Korea. Back in 2009, just over 60,000 medical tourists visited the country, but by 2014, the figure grew more than fourfold. As of the first half of last year, the cumulative figure topped 1 million. Business is booming, but not for all hospitals. In a recent survey of some 200 local institutions, interpretation services were needed the most in order to attract foreign patients, followed by counseling support for visa issues. And to offer a helping hand, the Health Ministry opened its first Medical Korea Information Center in central Seoul. The center is expected to make it much more convenient for foreign patients in Korea by offering interpretation services, medical consulting, as well as giving legal advice to sort out medical disputes. Effective promotion of Korea's medical tourism program is a huge factor for success, but organizers say there's more to it than that.
We've seen explosive growth during the past 8 years, but at the same time, problems have grown too, including the issue of illegal brokers. As the market gets bigger, it's not just about promotion of our services. Foreigners need to trust us in order to come to us.
Some of the center's first visitors were impressed.
It's very good that I can get Russian services here. I've had difficulties before because I don't speak Korean.
Along with the opening of the center, Korea plans to boost comprehensive support and offer more diverse medical tourism packages with the aim of attracting some 400,000 visitors this year alone. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Leap year. It only comes around every 4 years, and it can cause some people to age very slowly as they wait for their chance to celebrate a birthday. Lee Ju-won explains this unique dating system and met up with some leapers for their stories.
Today is my 6th birthday.
Park Gun-woo is 24 years old, but he's only had 6 official birthdays. That's because he was born on February 29th. We know it as Leap Day, and it's a special occasion that only comes around once in every 4 and sometimes 8 years. That's because the Earth doesn't orbit the Sun in the 365 days in our calendar year, but in approximately 365 days and 6 hours. So the extra 6 hours are stored up, and a full 24 hours is added every 4 years. For leapers, Taiwan, the UK, and New Zealand set February 28th as the legal birthday and March 1st for Hong Kong. But Korea doesn't have any rules regarding February 29th birthdays.
At times, I celebrate my birthday on February 28th, or I wait for a week and celebrate it together with my brother's birthday.
I celebrate it whenever my family and friends can make it, so sometimes it rolls over to March.
Aside from these rare birthdays, there are some other things that make Leap Day unique. In the Irish tradition, Leap Day is the only day women can propose marriage because the day was thought to bring good luck. And if men are to reject, they will have to give women silk gowns. But ironically, in Korea and Greece, old sayings tell couples not to get married on leap days because they can't get blessing from their ancestors. But regardless of such superstitions, February 29th is an extra day given once in 4 years. So here's hoping all of you make the most of this special day. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
The Alpensia Sliding Center, where the bobsleigh, skeleton, and luge events will take place for the 2018 PyeongChang Winter Olympics, opened to the press for the first time on Monday. An initial report says it's looking good. Over the weekend, the last in a series of ski and snowboard test events, there came to a close. Kwon Jang-ho was there for us for the last in our 4-part special series and found more than just snow and slopes.
The road to the 2018 PyeongChang Winter Olympic Games is well underway, and slowly but surely, anticipation is heating up.
I'm here at PyeongChang Phoenix Park for the last in this series of test events in preparation for the 2018 Winter Olympic Games. There's been some exciting ski and snowboard events so far, all going off without a hitch. But over the next 2 days, it's the turn of the intense and combative ski and snowboard cross.
The event is an all-out race down to the bottom of the hill over a course with sharp turns and big jumps. It's an Olympic favourite due to its unpredictable nature and dramatic close finishes. The PyeongChang Phoenix Park was chosen as one of the venues for this year's International Ski Federation World Cup Tour to put the future Olympic racecourses through their paces. And it turns out they are more than ready.
It's got good length to it, it's wide open, big features, we're catching a lot of air. The track today you could hold the Olympics on, for sure.
It's really exciting to be a racer, and I think it's exciting to be a spectator as well here.
The atmosphere was electric, and the audience was clearly enthralled by the action.
It's an event you don't really get to see in Korea. It's been a while since I've been to a ski resort, and it's great to see this competition and feel the energy.
Watching the battle between the racers is great, and the ups and downs and the rhythm as they ride, I think is fun.
Outside of the main event, an experience zone puts visitors in the heart of the action.
It felt like the real thing. It really felt like I was riding down the Swiss mountains. It was fun, but I felt dizzy and a little disoriented.
The PyeongChang Organizing Committee said it wants to make the 2018 Winter Games more than just a sporting event. They've dubbed it as the Cultural Olympics. The province embraced this idea with programs and festivals showcasing the best of Korea, as well as other cultures from around the world.
Through the Winter Games, we have a great opportunity to show Korea's nature, culture, and cutting-edge technology. That's why we're calling it the Cultural Olympics. The 2018 PyeongChang Olympics will not just be a sporting event, but it will be a cultural festival to showcase a side of true Korean culture that people may not have seen before.
The PyeongChang Winter Music Festival is one such event. It's a new classic and jazz concert series featuring world-renowned musicians that has been established to coincide with the Olympics. As the test events and the D-2-year celebrations came to a close, the PyeongChang Organizing Committee pulled out the stops to put together a closing torchlight ski parade and a special bonfire that lit up the PyeongChang 2018 slogan, Passion Connected.
There's less than 2 years now till the Olympic juggernaut rolls into town, but it seems like PyeongChang is ready for the challenge. If the organizers keep up their hard work and burning enthusiasm, it looks like it'll be Olympics that'll live long in the memory. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
The 88th Academy Awards was much more than just an event to recognize the finest in film. The Oscars served as a commentary on major issues, in particular an allegedly racist Hollywood. Bruce Harrison joins me now in the studio for the details. Now, Bruce, for me, there were two parts. There was a highlight for me, the fact that Leonardo DiCaprio was probably going meh after being snubbed so many times before he finally bagged an Oscar. And of course, Hollywood, or the Oscars, thinking about whether they made the right choice by trying to look a little different by choosing a rather controversial host for the event.
You know, I think that decision had been in the making for a while, but yes, they kept him on. Chris Rock was the host. He's a black Hollywood actor, and he was hosting this event amid a lot of controversy in Hollywood that black actors and actresses don't receive enough recognition. You know, so Rock set the tone from the moment he walked on stage. He began his monologue by referring to himself as the host of the White People's Choice Awards. As I said, tension had been building for a long time. The entire list of nominees for the top 4 awards were all white actors and actresses. But Rock's comments went beyond the racial breakdown of the nominations.
This year, in the in memoriam package, it's just going to be black people that were shot by the cops on their way to the movies.
Rock, though, has been criticized since the awards and called a hypocrite for ushering 3 Asian kids on stage as part of a jokes that touched on mass stereotypes and child labor. One of the other main events of the event was Leonardo DiCaprio's first Oscar win. He used his time on stage to raise awareness for global warming.
Climate change is real. It is happening right now. It is the most urgent threat facing our entire species, and we need to work collectively together and stop procrastinating. We need...
DiCaprio said the Revenant's production team had to switch locations for part of the shoot because the weather was too warm and snow had melted. A lack of racial diversity did not carry over to presenters of awards, which included South Korean actor Lee Byung-hun. He and Colombian actress Sofia Vergara presented the award for Best Foreign Language Film. He was the first Korean to present at the Academy Awards. China's central bank has waved off concerns that its foreign exchange reserves will continue to fall. The bank's vice governor, Yi Gang, also reaffirmed confidence in the strength of the yuan. The day before, China's economy received a vote of confidence at the G20 meeting of finance ministers and central bank chiefs in Shanghai.
I mean, you hear talk about sudden depreciations and the like. I think China is now on a very good path. That Governor Zhou is communicating. He's telling exactly what's going on inside the People's Bank of China.
China's foreign reserves fell for a third straight month in January as the central bank dumped dollars to defend the yuan and prevent an increase in capital outflows. Vice Governor Yang also said higher holdings by companies and individuals is responsible for part of the recent reductions in China's massive forex reserves.
Now, Bruce, there may be a wind of change blowing in Iran because early voting results show that they are very supportive of a reformist candidate in the Islamist Republic.
Exactly what we've seen so far is a strong vote of confidence for Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and his reformist partners in this election. In addition to the early returns, Iran's vice president said the high turnout indicates people's enthusiasm toward the country's democratic process.
This is a clear indication that the people are present in the scene, in the political scene in Iran, that they believe in the democratic processes in the country.
The showing so far indicates Rouhani may have a chance to push forward his policies and agenda.
And of course, he is the main driving force behind that Iran nuclear deal. And I believe that once Rouhani gains more traction in terms of support from the people, there will be win-win situations for Iran and the rest of the world.
Sure. I mean, the nuclear deal may just be the start. It's a sign that relations are warming with Western nations, in particular Europe. He's been reaching out quite a bit. And once these returns are all in, we may have a good idea of what's going to play out in Iran the next few years.
Well, thank you for those stories today, Bruce.
My pleasure.
Time now to check for the latest on weather conditions with our Lee Ji-hyun at the Weather Center. Ji-hyun, the capital area was blanketed by snow yesterday. How much did we get?
Well, we got about 4.5 centimeters of snowfall here in the capital, which is the second heaviest snowfall this winter with a heavy snow advisory in place yesterday afternoon. And what caused such a heavy snowfall yesterday? Well, a cold, dry air mass swept in from the north and a warm, moist air mass moved in from the southwest. And when these two air masses clashed, it dropped snow up north and rain down south. And it seems like this cold air will linger through tomorrow. It's going to be a freezing morning for Seoul and many parts of the country. But tomorrow is March 1st, which is Independence Movement Day here in Korea, a national holiday. So I'm guessing many of you will be probably sleeping in. But if you plan to head out early, be sure to dress extra warmly as the daily low will kick off at -6 degrees Celsius here in Seoul and -5 over in Daegu. But we're expecting lots of sunshine throughout the day, but that's not going to do much as the daily high here in Seoul will only make it to 2 degrees Celsius, 6 in Daegu and 7 for Busan. But on a warmer note, by Friday, we'll get a high of 15 degrees Celsius here in Seoul. So till then, be sure to dress warmly. Now that's Korea for you, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
That's the end of our program. Wherever you may be tuning in from, thank you for watching.